Once again, we are astounded that someone would agree to a We Are the Fall interrogation, but our hot streak with special guests continues. Today, we have Una Baines, founding member of the Fall, the Fates, Blue Orchids, and numerous other side projects and main bands, including her new project, Poppycocks. We couldn't be happier to have another founding member of the Fall on here. And to talk to Una Baines is really a treat because she just exudes the music and exudes creativity. And I don't know, I had a really fun time talking to her.
It was a lovely early morning for us, afternoon for her to sit and hear her thoughts on a variety of topics and how much passion she has around music, around women's rights, and just kind of the us as a community in general. And just
Mm,
she's very positive and forward thinking on a lot of things, especially for the time when the fall was founded. She had places she wanted to go.
mm, yeah, that's right. And I was also not surprised, but I'm just thankful that we've talked to Martin, we've talked to Una, and both of them are very real, organic, natural people, and they don't put on a front. They don't put on as much as they could, honestly, put on a rock star attitude, or even, put on maybe Mark just he took up that whole space. So it just allowed all the other band members to just be themselves because even the House of All members, the the every fall member just seems like they were naturally just themselves, and that's what you get with her, and she was really great with giving us her full perspective. We hope you enjoy our interview with Una Baines. Hello, Una.
Hi, Gavin.
How's it going over there?
Yeah, not bad, thanks.
That's Steve over
Hi,
there.
hi, Una, how are you?
Hi, Steve. Not bad. How are you?
Good.
So, and also happy belated birthday. Do you do anything
Oh,
fun?
thank you. Uh, Not really. Just getting my house ready because I had a few people round a couple of days later, and I
Mm,
didn't want to do it last minute, so I had a very unexciting birthday. But yeah, a nice gathering a couple of days after.
excellent, excellent. You're playing guitar and as well as a number of things in in Poppycock right now.
Yeah, very minimal guitar.
Oh,
We've
is it really?
Yeah, we've got a brilliant guitarist, Heather. Yeah, she's really good. No, my guitar playing is extremely minimal.
That's interesting though, because do you find yourself writing on guitar recently?
No, not really. In the past, I was writing on guitar, but now I started writing on the bass because
Oh,
I wanted more kind of rhythm, more bass lines in my material. So yeah, so that's currently what I've been doing, writing on the bass.
well, it really comes across in the singles because there is like a real groove to these tracks that you've released already, and even some of the singles you released a couple years ago that didn't find themselves on the album. Were those recorded around the same time? Like I'm thinking of the Iggy Pop single.
Oh, that was the last one we did on German Shepherd Records.
Oh, I see, I see.
Yeah, and that was, you know what? I'm not sure who it was either Matt or
Hmm.
Mickey. Mickey who played bass on that. I'm not sure. I'd have to get a copy of it and read the credits.
Well, let's go back to the keyboard because Steve and I have really been enjoying listening to of obviously the first Fall EP and then into the Blue Orchids catalog. And just Steve and I were discussing a lot. We were just wondering what was the transition like, to go from the Fall aesthetic that you created and that went on further after your departure. But what was it like to transition from that tone and even songwriting into the Blue Orchids? How did you find it?
it's completely different. It's like my apprenticeship at the Fall. The keyboards aren't really that prominent. You can't hear them on a lot of. You certainly couldn't hear them live on a lot of gigs and stuff. But it suited what we were doing then, and yeah, so that was. But the Blue Orchids, it was completely different. It was like a kind of awakening, doing more melodic things, having that kind of space to just be creative and try out melodies.
And how did you decide on the tone of the keyboard? Because it's drastically different as well from the Fall.
Yeah, well, I've always loved that organ sound. I mean, maybe that goes back to being in church when I was a kid. That was
Mm.
a part of the church that I actually liked, was the organ sound. Yeah, and then using more fluty sounds. Yeah, just experimenting with different sounds really, and kind of sticking with one or two that I really liked. Yeah, I used a string sound as well on the Orchid stuff, but yeah, it's just experimentation really, and finding
Mhm.
something that I thought suited and fitted.
And what about lyrically for the Blue Orchids? Because you were writing obviously different thematic pieces for the Blue Orchids that were not like the pieces that you wrote for the Fall.
The whole thing was like a new kind of awakening, really, I
Mm.
guess, of what had happened to me previously, and it all kind of melded together. I don't know. I didn't really sit down and analyze it or anything,
Mhm.
but it did feel like I had a lot of kind of freedom. There was a lot of space for me in the Blue Orchids,
Mm.
um, which is obvious when you listen to the greatest hit.
And so the Blue Orchids weren't the lyrics weren't very like political or kind of similar to what you're doing now with a strong feminist approach. And but you were writing that way in the Fall. Was it a difficult to either not do it, or was it more interesting to kind of expand on some psychedelic lyrics and things like that?
Well, it's all those things together, really. To do with things that we'd experienced, like the psychedelic aspect of it, but also kind of political. But it all kind of comes out together.
Mm.
It's just a part of your psyche, really.
Can you tell us about what it's like to play a Peel session?
Ah, yeah. I didn't do a peel session with the
Oh,
Paul. That probably was Paulette.
okay.
Sorry, Yvonne Paulette. Yeah, because I became quite ill and I couldn't play anymore. So I didn't do that, but I did a couple of peel sessions with the Blue Orchids when I had become ill yet again, and apparently I was found wandering around the basement at the BBC, completely lost. But
Oh.
for some reason, that session, I remember I played, I think it was a grand piano on No Looking Back, and it sounded absolutely lovely. So I don't know. I don't know. Some things you can't explain.
Yeah, it just seems like a very interesting experience for the band to go into the Peel session and having to choose the songs that are conveyed to a wide listening audience, right? Because it seems like a little bit of a daunting decision to choose the songs by themselves because it's going to be such I don't know, a performance that you probably didn't think about it back then as being some lasting musical recording, but
No, of course not.
yeah, yeah.
But I don't think I had any input into what songs were chosen for those sessions.
Mm.
But they were really good choices.
Hmm. Yeah, there's some of our favorites, definitely, for sure.
So did you upgrade your keyboard? I understand you had to leave Snoopy behind with the Fall. Did you
Yeah,
upgrade to something different, or
yeah, I got a really nice Yamaha
Hmm.
keyboard that had very rich sounds on it. That I would like to get that keyboard again. Yeah, I no longer have it. Keyboards I use now, I've got two keyboards. I've got a Casio and a Yamaha. Um, really old school, but they come from charity shops. Cost
Oh,
me about 100 quid, 50 quid.
good find.
They do the job, the organ sound, which I use still quite a lot, and it's a kind of piano sound. I mean, there's a myriad of sounds, but it's got everything I need really.
Hmm.
I might upgrade one day. I might move into the 21st century. I'm
Hmm.
not. I'm not. I'm not sure.
If it's working though, it is working.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is working
I was,
definitely.
I was gonna say I was listening to the Fates Furia, and it definitely seemed like you were trying to show your chops of where you've come from your beginnings with the fall. It was really beautifully done on the keyboard and all the different sounds you created.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we got in something from the BBC that made all those wind sounds,
Oh,
which, which was my just kind of. I really enjoyed doing that, creating the wind on a on an electronic instrument.
hmm.
Um, and I can't remember what the keyboard was that we had. I think that was from the BBC as well, but it's a long time ago, so I don't remember.
Yeah.
Tony Friel recorded that album at his studio, which was very near to where I live, Playtime Studio, and his partner, she works at the BBC, and I think she hired out these keyboards for me. Um, yeah, she also sang on the album.
Did Tony, he's listed as a producer. Did he help you get sounds that you wanted and sculpt the sound in any way?
Yeah, it was great. It was great to work with. It was a very creative thing, and the other thing was we were given, it was a pretty small budget, really, all in with the cover and everything, and he gave us loads of free time, and people were paid in um, kind of stew and herbal teas, basically.
That probably helps the recording process though.
Yeah, it was very relaxed. And I just think, if people are, I don't know, maybe it would have been different in the fall. Maybe being very hungry would have added to the to the tension or whatever. But I wasn't looking for that.
That's good though. You went to the opposite end of the spectrum to see what would happen. I think that's
Yeah,
nice.
looking after people. I think, yeah, I think there's something to be said for it.
Well, it comes out. It comes out in the sound. It definitely does.
Well, I'm
Um,
working with two of the women that I'm working with now. One of the singers, Julie Wolstenholme, was one of the original Fates,
mm,
and her sister Janet actually recorded the track Magic Mothers, if you've heard that. That
yes.
was her baby, that's her sound and everything.
Wow.
So yeah, so I'm still working with those two people from the
Wow.
original Fates.
Well, and is it right too that some of the members of the Fates were also in your other band called Beyond the Glass?
Oh, well, Beyond the Glass, Janet and Julie have just mentioned it was
Oh,
them and their sisters who had a band called Beyond the Glass.
oh.
And myself and another couple of women joined them. They were already up and running. I worked with them for I don't know, a few years. I was in Beyond the Glass. We
Mm,
we we played all over Manchester. We did lots of benefits like Women in Ireland and stuff like that. Things that were going on at the time.
mm.
Yeah, they were very soul jazzy. Well, everybody wrote, and there's some punky stuff, but it was a real eclectic mix. But mainly, I would say, kind of soul and jazzy and bluesy,
Oh.
and it was a great learning thing for me.
We love the singles from the new Poppycock album. Well, we haven't heard the whole thing yet, that which is going to be coming out on May 24th on Tiny Global Records. But are those some of the sounds that we might be getting? Can you give us a little preview? It was,
Yeah, it's because they were written over different periods of time. Yeah, over a very long period of time. But there is a second track on the album. Yeah, it's very much kind of, well, it was actually written for one of the people in Beyond the Glass who passed. She
oh,
was a blues singer called Jean Ricard. Um, and I wrote that song for her, and her sister sings it on the album, and it's beautiful. It's the way she delivers it, it's absolutely stunning.
The new album, is it more of a collaborative effort, or are you kind of the driving force behind it?
No, on this, it's all my material, all my songs.
mm,
Because I started out to just record an album. Janet Wilson was working at Seed Studio in Old Trafford, and she told me about it. And my kids were growing up, and I thought, well, I'd like to do another album. So I only went in there with that intention to make an album.
mm,
But then, started to get the idea of like maybe putting a band together and doing gigs. And the first lineup we did, it was a real mix of everything, really. And it was on YouTube for a while, but the person who'd recorded it, I think at our second gig or maybe our first gig, it was complete mad music, really. I asked him eventually to take it down because it didn't reflect how we developed. But he can't find that now, and I'd like to hear that now because it would show a bit of the journey of how things
oh,
evolve. I might
oh.
get onto him again, and it's called Stephen Roberts, and ask him if they can dig it out, if they can have a look for it.
Yeah, you definitely should. So we've seen that you've been playing with Poppycock, live. In the album has taken. I read like 15 years in the making, recording off and on.
No,
What?
it's about 12 years. I think it's
Oh,
about
okay.
12. I mean, at the beginning, it was a bit like the Fury album. It's kind of half written, and when we went in the studio, I finished the writing. I mean, I like that. I like the idea of things not being, finished, and that you
Mm,
can work in real time
mm.
rather than everything being set. Sorry, I've lost my thread. What were we talking
No,
about?
that's okay. I was gonna ask if playing live with one of the incarnations of the band informed what you did in the studio, or was it totally separate?
Um, well, well, no, but you can do different things in the studio, maybe that you can't do live unless
Mm,
you've got lots and lots of money. I
hmm
mean, for example, the track Hell, that's got five women doing those kind of eerie
mm,
vocals on it.
mm.
And we could, I mean, if we did the album live, there would probably be about 20 people involved. So it wouldn't be realistic. So it's such a pleasure to be able to do that in the studio.
Mhm.
But then we find a way to do that in a more minimalist type of a way. I mean, the thing is, the only everybody in the band can sing. Um,
Huh.
well, almost everybody, apart from me and maybe one other person. So, we improvise a lot. Sometimes if there's a member missing, we've picked up and, me and Heather have shared playing bass, for example, or because I can do it on the very minimal songs, and she can do it on the more complex songs. So, we do a lot of that kind of improvisational thing out of necessity a lot of times, but it's
Mhm.
been great, And at the moment, we're working with a guy called Rick who plays trumpet, but he's also playing djembe. We haven't actually got a drummer at the moment,
Oh,
but we're using a djembe because then you can hear the vocals better, and we might and end up working with a drummer, but we'll carry on working with the djembe as well. So we'll have, I love percussion anyway. So I don't know. I like that it keeps evolving, but I don't want it to run away with itself. It's just like a gentle kind of organic vibe to it, really.
mm. That's definitely what we hear too. And even in the Fates album, the percussion is some of my favorite. I just love the variation and the different sounds, and you're not getting the traditional drum sounds a lot of the times, and it's perfect for voices as well.
Yeah, it really is, and all that percussion was all done in the studio.
Mm,
It wasn't written, it wasn't preconceived.
mm.
Yeah,
Do
that
you
was
have
a
a
real
favorite part
pleasure.
of being in a band? Do you like live performances? Do you like going into the studio or the writing process? What do you get the most joy out of?
Writing, I love
Mm.
the writing, and I love studio. Gigs can be difficult sometimes, but you know, especially like we don't have roadies ready. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain, but the actual playing it's great, and it's lovely hearing everybody, shine. It's really nice.
So Una, you've been in we talked to Martin and he brought up this topic of the importance of a female presence in a band, and you've been in the role of multiple bands that are, mo majority males, and you've been in that role, and then you've been in so many great, excellent all-female bands and I'm just wondering what your perspective is on that dynamic.
Not enough women in music. I think that's true, and I think a woman gives a different feel, a different vibe in a
Mm,
band if it's all male.
mm,
Um, like Tansy's bringing to the Blue Orchids now.
right.
I think it does. It adds something, and I think it's really important, and I don't think it's valued anywhere near enough.
Mhm.
And I think female voices need to be heard. Um, and I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by spoke for choice with the amount of women I know who've got amazing voices, really.
And speaking of amazing voice, yeah, the Blue Orchids played two European tours with Nico, and I'm just wondering, being around her, spending time with her, and seeing her on stage and part of her band, did you take anything away from her as a musician or as performer?
Yeah, well, I really loved Nico before I ever met her. I never thought
Mm,
I'd ever, never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd meet Nico, let alone play music with her. And when I think I was 16, and learnt all, I learnt all her tunes on the piano, so I could play, basic, not with. But then
mm,
again, her stuff was quite minimal, wasn't it? The melodies
mhm,
were quite minimal, and yeah, I mean, I already was a massive fan of Nico, and it was an absolute. It's like one of those pinch me moments when we actually played with them.
mm,
We actually got to be a support band as well as learn all her songs, and she did some old Velvet songs when we played with her, and she did David Bowie's Heroes as well.
mm.
And it was like, wow, can't believe this is happening. It's like amazing. Waiting for the man and time to tell. And yeah, that was great. And I asked her a couple of times if she could do I'll Be Your Mirror, but she never wanted to do that.
No. Oh,
Well, we actually Poppycock do that live occasionally,
mm,
but it's turned up on an advert.
mm.
I,
Yeah, has
I,
it?
I was at, yeah, it's like some kind of travel advert. And I was
Oh.
absolutely horrified. It was really weird. It's really weird hearing her voice. It's like, what?
Yeah.
and, and that beautiful guitar, and then her voice. It's like Nico on the telly
Right.
doing I'll Be Your Mirror. And I was just absolutely horrified. I thought it's nothing sacred, but of course in this world nothing is.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's not going to stop us from doing it. I think when we do the launch of our album,
Mhm.
it was already in the plans before the advert that we were going to do that anyway. So I think it's still on the menu.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, she was an absolute joy to. I loved working with Nico, and I found her a very. I mean, I didn't see. I've heard of her being difficult and awkward and stuff like that, but I never found her like that at all. And and no matter what she was going through, she was extremely professional and always did a gig from beginning to end and put 100% into it.
And she was living in Manchester, is that right?
Yeah, she was living in Manchester.
Oh.
Well, first of all, she lived on King's Road in Prestwich, which was literally a few yards from where me and Mark used to be listening to Nico at his parents. It was just really bizarre. And then yeah, she lived. I think it was like Lower Broughton or Sedgley Park, Prestwich Way, and she was very close to my friend Jane Goldstraw. Yeah, and Eric, our bass player in the Blue Orchids. Yeah, they were very good friends, and John, Cooper Clark, they all kind of lived at that house. Well, Nico didn't live there, but she was there all the time, really. Another funny thing is, on Dudley Road, where I live now, there used to be a hotel called the Polex Hotel, and we used to pick Nico up from there to do gigs, and actually lived literally a few yards from that hotel, which has now been turned into flats.
Oh, that's so wild. It's like you completed the circle. You're learning Nico Velvet Underground songs on a piano when you're young, and then you're learning her new songs to play in her backing band. It's just I don't know. That's a wild through line. Um, can we ask you something that's I guess it's remotely related to that. There's been, and Steve and I like to talk about it a lot, but there's been a lot written about Mark's psychic abilities. I was just wondering if you've had any instances or experiences related to that.
Isn't psychic abilities really having like trusting your intuition and being able to kind of see things that are connected going on if you pay attention, or you just trust your instinct? I think that's all it means, and I think everybody's got it. I think when people go on, "Oh, I'm a psychic," it's and why would spirits be hanging around bingo halls waiting for somebody to go, is that a D? Is it somebody with D? Letter D? You know what I mean? I think if there are spirits around, I think they might have better things to do,
I would certainly hope so. No, I think I completely agree. Just being a keen observer, being in the moment, in reality, right?
Yeah, and things do join up, and it does seem that when those things happen, it is magical. And there are things that we can't explain, and that's why we use the word magical. Because, I don't know, I'm going to sound all hippie now, but this world is a magical place. It's the Garden of Eden. It's beautiful. And we're fucking it up. But anyway, we won't go down that path too much. But yeah, it really is. It's an incredibly magical thing to think that a tree can put out so many seeds that could create hundreds more trees. It's just like,
absolutely,
science can explain it, but it'll never explain the magic of it. Because that's something that you look at in awe, and it's magical, and you have that experience, and nothing will ever. Even poetry only touches on it, or can hint at it, or it can move you and make you feel. Well, that's really kind of what it's all about, I guess.
Well, can we talk about something magical to us, which is maybe not in that explicit sense, but the album cover for Magic Mothers, the Fates album cover is one of our favorites. It's so beautiful and it's so intriguing. Do you have any stories about the Fates album cover, and then we can talk about the Poppycock's album cover?
Yeah, Linda Sterling from Ludus, and she also did artwork for Buzzcocks. She used to live around here on Mayfield Road, so we used to run into each other occasionally. And I was telling her about my idea for this cover, and I was trying to draw it. Like, what I was trying to draw was this giant leg.
Oh.
Like it was a kind of massive giant woman. and I just couldn't do it. And we talked about it, and she had the idea, to do this, to photograph me basically. And she'd got this big wedding veil from a charity shop, and it was her idea to use that. And we went into Alex Park about 5 o'clock in the morning, so that nobody was about, and took till we got the pose that I wanted. That was kind of the look where the bend of the leg is exactly what I wanted. And in case you're wondering, it was fake blood. I couldn't conjure up my cycle at the right time, so
it still gets the point across very well. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, that it's connected to that it's natural, and there's so many taboos around it, and ridiculous taboos. Like in some cultures, a woman cannot stand on the ground when she's menstruating. It's still regarded as something shameful, a curse. And actually, it contains the egg that's the potential for life. It's a magical thing, and I feel very strongly about that, and that it's just a natural part of nature. And the idea of that bleeding into the ground apparently has become a thing now. I found out quite recently, but maybe it's always been a thing for hundreds of years. And it's kind of religion, patriarchal religions that have created this negative attitude. Anyway, I won't go on about that too much.
The Magic Mothers cover is equally intriguing with the three female figures, and the color is just also just stunning. Can you tell us about this album cover and the selection for this visual?
Yeah, it must be about 10 years ago now. Pascal, we became friends on Facebook, and he said I said I was starting, maybe it was more than 10 years, but anyway, that was trying to record an album, and he said, would I like him to do the cover? And I was really, chuffed a bit. So he did a couple of things that weren't really what I was looking for, but I didn't dictate any of it. I didn't, it was his. And then he came up with that one that was the third one. And I just loved it straight away. I just thought, because it looks like energy coming out of the women's hands.
Yeah.
I just thought, that's real. I loved it straight away. So that's what we've gone with.
It's really fitting to the sounds that we've heard so far. It feels related, which is perfect. Which is what want.
It does. It's completely goes together. About 2 years ago, he sent me a message saying, Una, if you make an album, would you like me to do the cover?
Oh.
And I said, you already have. And he went, I know. Because it's like all those years later, no album's appeared, but now it has. Actually, Pascal, hopefully, is going to be displaying his work at our launch.
Oh, that's fun.
Along with Suzanne Smith. This is the first time I've revealed this.
This is great.
But yeah, we're having an art exhibition alongside, the performance of the album.
It seems like the visual art is very much related to your music as well. I know you've been involved with some video production. Can you tell us about some projects that excite you or that you've been involved with that you would like to share?
Yeah, we did. Have you seen the Lizard Man video? Oh yeah, that's really funny. I mean, we couldn't use it on a recording, and if you look at it, if you listen to it, you'll see why we couldn't use it on the recording. We've done a different version of it on the album, but that came from, I had a dream about the fall at the beer cellar, and it came from the fall standing with the back to the audience at the beer cellar. Beer cellar's got like a low ceiling, and they're in the darkness, and then Mark turns round, and then somebody switches on a switch, and all these 60-watt light bulbs light up, illuminating his lizard costume with a big long tail. It's so cheesy and so fall. And I thought, And then this song came, and we recorded it, but we made a video at Islington Mill in the attic, which was an untouched part of Islington Mill at that time. And that was all very improvised. We found our costumes and all the equipment, apart from the lizard. I had this rubber kind of very realistic looking lizard that I brought with me. And and we set up this kind of little video scene, and we had great fun. Whether people like it or not, but we enjoyed it. we had a real good time making that video.
The hardest part is finishing the album, as you know, and as I know as well. It's kind of making the decision that it's actually done. I'm wondering if you had the experience. What made your decision to say this is it?
I've been trying to say this is it for a long time, but loads of things happened. People becoming ill and lineup changes, and because I kind of managed the band, but I'm not a band manager, and I didn't know anything about managing bands. So that has been a massive steep learning curve for me. But the thing is, I feel like because one of the tracks on it, I started writing in the late 80s or early 90s, something like that.
Oh.
Now, it's nothing like how it started out, but because everything was being held up, I kind of went on this journey, meeting people. Basically, what I wanted was people to talk about something that they really cared about passionately, and from different cultures. So we've got people speaking in Iranian and Portuguese. And it was all kind of based on graffiti from Greece that was very direct and very political. That really inspired me. So, for example, there was one piece of graffiti that said, "Down with prisons and the society that needs them." So the people who spoke in Turkish took that as their starting point, and then they had a conversation in Turkish about that subject. Other people decided to write a poem, or so it all came from different places. An Italian guy did something by Ernesto Berlinguer. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but he was quite a socialist Italian guy who was encouraging the youth to take control of things and to shape the future, and he was very inspired by that. So we recorded him doing this speech, and then he translated it in English for the album because I was so impressed at the time with what the words of this Ernesto were. So that took me on this massive journey that took ages, and that was just so inspiring to do that. And by the time I'd finished that, then the album was kind of finished. And I sent it to about 4 different labels, and John Henderson took it on board. I think he thought we weren't a working band at the time. Because I think we'd had a bit of a lull, but it's while we were kind of getting all this together. And we were still gigging, but not like anything high profile, but just doing like local gigs and stuff. So, and that has been a blessing. Tiny Global Productions are just amazing people. I don't feel like I'm a part of the music industry. I think I'm working with very creative people who really care about what they're doing.
Yes.
And we're lucky, we're lucky to found these people.
Yeah, we shout out to Tiny Global Productions for just having great taste in music. They really do. They really do. And really supporting artists that have something to say that's necessary, that's needed. And it's definitely, as a listener, it's definitely very much appreciated.
Do you guys have a proper tour set up once the album comes out?
I won't call it a proper tour. We've not really got a tour sorted out. We're doing the launch in June, the 14th at the Carlton Club, and then in Whalley Range. and then the week later we played Berry Met. But we've not planned beyond that yet. I mean, we're having our first kind of rehearsal tonight after a bit of a lull, and we're getting on it now to get ready for this launch. But we'll talk about. I mean, when we meet up, we'll talk about what we're going to do. It's difficult getting everybody to be available at the same time. That's one of the hardest parts of doing this. I mean, everybody's got their own stuff going on, but people are pretty committed and they really are loving what they're doing now. So it's we'll see. I've got no really set in stone plans, but it's going well.
It's such an exciting time after all the hard work you guys have put in.
Yeah, a lot of hard work, very much so. But it's been a pleasure. I mean, it's not like doing a shit job that you hate.
Well, Una, we've enjoyed chatting with you so much, and thank you again for taking the time to talk with Steve and I.
Thank you, and I also want to say thank you for the lovely things you said about the keyboards when you did the greatest hit.
Oh, it was so fun.
I've never heard anything that nice said about the keyboards before, so thank you.
Well, thank you for making it for us, because we've had so much fun just listening to it together and just getting deep into it. So, I mean, it's beautiful stuff. Thank you again, Una. Cheers.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
What's this about?
Nothing.
Lizard man weighs only grams. Rapping, tapping, lizard man. For as for the door, steps into a new page. Lizard man weighs only grams. Rapping, tapping, lizard man. He lands on the street, sense in the air, in a heartbeat. He isn't there. Lizard man weighs only grams. Rapping, tapping, lizard man. Sitting on his throne, backdrop shot like a Tazi's finger, a rat-a-tat-tat. Lizard man weighs only grams. Rapping, tapping, lizard man.
experience. Distressing, worrying. I was just coming from holding up a bank, and I came across something worse than the police. I can't explain how I feel.